Why is this so important? Because we have this same problem in the culture we live in today when we're trying to be salt and we're trying to be light, because the dilemma that we have, and it's been reinforced by bad theology that tells us, and what I mean by that is that there's this whole movement that's been going through the church for 50 years that we're defeated, or in other words, let me put it this way, that the church is God's and the world is the devil's. And so we can't go out there for one reason. Because maybe what's going on out there is more happening than what's going on in here, and it might influence us, and we'll start sinning and quit being Christians. So we've just told everybody, just lock yourself in the church, just separate yourself, segregate yourself, go through the motions and pretend like you're going through the motions in the world, but come in church and live in the church and stay in the church and have nothing to do with the world. Why? Because we got to keep our hands clean. We got to make sure we don't have any unwashed hands. We've got to make sure that everything works right and everything looks good, and we've just got to be the church. Anybody listen to me yet? I got some deep stuff we're going to get into today. So if this is the moment, if it's too strong, you may want to get this tape. I'm telling you, because you might want to leave early. But I love it. That's why we're talking about it today. This is the place, salt and light. We can't be salt and light in here. Guess where we have to be? And how can we go out there if we're so paranoid about getting dirty? Messes with everything. I know and I realize. We're going to bring balance to it, though. Here's a good example of it. Is that in essence, it's not the theological issue about the world being the devil's as much, which that is bad theology, because the Bible says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And if you look when he was talking about the fullness, it actually, you can replace and put your name there. He was talking about the earth is God's and yours. So that changes everything. But interestingly so, it's not so much the theology as it is mythology. Has anybody ever seen that show, Mythbusters? I love to watch that show. Half the reason because I'm educated and I learned things through it, and I've even got my own little Mythbuster project we're going to do here in a few moments. But the church I found, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying the church I grew up in, and it's not necessarily here because I've gone to several different churches and grew up in an organization, all that different stuff. But I'm trying to say, even in my travels, I found there's this huge myth. And if you talk about myths, in essence, it's trying to hold something that's not true as though it is true. That's all myth really is. And some people say there's Bigfoot, don't know if there's Bigfoot, doubt there's Bigfoot, but there's a whole lot of people that spend all their time trying to convince that this false truth is real by sightings. The guy got dressed up in a suit and put a video camera on. You've probably seen it on TV, Loch Ness Monster. There's all other kinds of myths. And the greatest myth I've ever found in the church is that church people have it all together. That we live perfect lives and all our bills are paid on time and we never get sick and we only drive luxury cars. Somebody say, false. All right. Glad we got that out in the air. It's amazing to the lengths that we'll go to make sure this myth in the world is not stagnant or that it's never obscured, because we want the world to see us as a group of people that because we are anointed by God, that, man, we got it together. Somebody say, got it together. So I found in the church, and this is all going to tie in together, just hold on with me. In the church, we have adopted this process of throwing each other under the bus. Because if you're sinning, if you're messed up, and you're sitting on my row, it may reflect me too. So instead of talking to you and helping you and counseling you, what do? I isolate, I alienate, and I excommunicate. You try saying that. It amazes me that what we'll do is we'll pull back from people because we can't dare let your indiscretion reflect us, because we got to keep our hands clean. We can't help you because we got to keep our hands clean. Let me talk to you for a second. Why do you think God placed them on your row in the first place? It's so you could be salt and light and help them through their circumstance and not throw them under a bus and ride over them till Jesus comes and say, bless God, that's one casualty to war. We got to get this myth out of the church of thinking everybody's perfect and everybody's got Romans 3:23. If you know it, quote it. For God, or what does it say? I was going to say it for you, but does anybody know? Romans 3:23. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That was the first thing I learned when I got saved. I was like, thank God, I got to find some slack in this system here. Everybody messes up. Everybody makes mistakes. And if you ever get to the point that you feel like you're perfect, man, you've missed the boat altogether. The boat's done left the dock. It's halfway across the water, and it's not coming back to pick you up. Because why? You're probably so self-righteous you wouldn't get on in the first place. But if you could ever realize that everybody makes mistakes, everybody does. There's nobody perfect. Then we got to understand this myth. We've got to begin to change how that people see the church. Remember, this is all an image thing that we can't get them to come in here if they see us in the wrong way. So all being salt and light is, in essence, is just changing the image and understanding that we've got to get rid of the myth that everybody's perfect and everybody has it together and all that good stuff. Because this is the thing. The world will never engage and want to be part of us until we come to terms with what they already know about us, and that's that we live in skin too. Yes. We got the wool pulled over our eyes, but the world can see from the outside in, just like we're living in a glass house. And for a group of people called the church to pretend that they have it all together, why is the divorce rate 2% higher in the church than the world? Hello, is anybody talking to me? Trying to get some type of response. The world recognizes and sees we've got problems too. You know, it's little things like this. We'll stand with a picket sign that says no abortion. But then we'll turn around and outcast a single mother that comes to their church and say, who in the world does she think she is? It's the same principle. You're just aborting the baby after she's already here, not before she gets here. It amazes. So the world sees things like that, and they look in and they say, how would and why would I ever want to become part of a group of people that pretend to have it get together that don't? Because in reality, I saw what they did to so-and-so, and I was just there last week, so why would I want to sit on their row when they'll throw me under the bus too? We got to change the myth. Somebody says salt and light. Salt and light. The real myth I found that leads to the other myth we've been talking about is that if I'm part of the world in any capacity whatsoever, if I engage the culture, it will defile me and somehow make me become less of a Christian. I want you to think about that for a moment. The greatest falsity that we could ever have in the church is that somehow me going out there makes me less of a person when I come in here. And we have altar calls that reinforces things like come to Jesus and all your problems will be fixed and you never have another problem the rest of your life. So we come in here and it sounds good and we get our life straight, and then we find out that the preacher probably lied to us because he was just trying to get somebody to come forward because it built his own self-esteem to the process. And we go back into the world because when we were here, not everything they said would happen happened. Like, you know, we didn't win the lottery when we tithed the first time. I wish somebody would smile. Is it just too intense in here today? I wish somebody would just be happy just for a moment. Will you just take a break and just rest your face and just smile for a second? So what happens is that we feel like if everything doesn't work in here, there's no way we can go out there. There's no way we can engage the culture. There's no way we could ever become a part of what happens. And thankfully, I didn't grow up in this, but maybe some of you did. You know, and the church would legalize sports with their children because that was just so unholy that it would get their hands dirty and they'd be so unclean, all the different kinds of stuff. And so we tried to have different alternatives like church volleyball night, but then, you know, it's not as fun as going to the pep rally. So we got this conflict among generations and all that good stuff because we're trying to just keep our hands clean, but we can't touch anybody out there because everybody's dirty. That's a myth. It's false. It's wrong. Somebody say, thank God that it's wrong. As I don't know about you, but I live in a real world, and I can't even go get groceries without going out into the world, as the church doesn't have everything here. I want you to know that. So it blesses me to know and understand we can breathe easy because just because we go out there does not make us any less of a person or any less of a Christian. But the dilemma we got is that because this mindset's been in the church, is that the church has been transformed into something it was never meant to be. It's become an institution that only supports the people that belong to the club, have the jacket, and know the secret handshake. And the church was never designed to be that. The church was designed to be the salt of where? The earth. The church was designed to be the place that people that could come busted, messed up, disgusted, could come in and find in the midst of their brokenness and meet a God face to face and be made whole. But very few churches even engage people that don't know Christ already. All of our programs, all of our outreach are built and designed to reach church people. The problem with that is that the church has got to perform in a way that it makes church people happy.